It was a historic launch. SpaceX capsule docks with International Space Station. Now, this is historic launch of to mark the first time humans have ever traveled to orbit in a spacecraft built and operated by a private company. We do know that this largely has been done by the American and the Russian governments, but now this is a private company that has, for the first time, launched and touched down on the moon. So innovation and, well, looking at private companies also looking into that space.
Yeah, those are usually endeavors carried out by, governments. India also is usually part of that, and China. But at the same time, it's interesting that this is something that could be seen as to be happening or being carried out by private companies, which is, I think, quite impressive. I would imagine they're hoping to get some gains out of it. Space exploration, some of the benefits are still far-fetched, but at the same time, it's quite interesting that a lot of countries are seeing that this could be actually beneficial and are getting into it this soon. And at the same time, if you want to know more about what's happening on the worldwide front, the Standard has a story about Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, facing major taste over the virus lockdown. He has, one of the experts quoted here says this lockdown is costing our economy around 13 billion rand a day. The president must end it tomorrow. This is a dilemma that governments are facing across the world, particularly those harder hit. And South Africa is one of the leading nations that are suffering under the thumb of COVID-19. So it's interesting that just to see that this is not a Kenyan issue alone, it's a worldwide issue. Countries are actually suffering quite deeply when it comes to COVID-19 and the economy.
Absolutely. And of course, South Africa waiting with bated breath to see whether that ban is going to be lifted, that lockdown is going to be lifted. They have been under lockdown for a while, and of course that cripples the economy. And again, South Africa is one of the countries in Africa that has had the hugest number, the most affected country in terms of numbers. Whether that is because they're testing more numbers or not, we don't know. But that, of course, is going to be a point where many South Africans are looking at that with bated breath. But let's go back to The Nation on page 11, and there's a story there. Those of us who possibly would be interested in looking at the environment and conservation, Balala has now made a move to ban single-use plastic in public places and protected areas like national parks. That is the use of things like, disposable plates, spoons, glasses, those that you use for picnics. It is now going to be illegal starting Friday for them to be used in any protected area. This, of course, is in light of trying to protect the environment, and it will now be an offense to use disposable plates, cups, straws, spoons, forks, water bottles in any protected area, including national parks, beaches, forests, and conservation areas. So be warned, from Friday it is going to be illegal.
The question would be, though, what's the alternative? Let's take the example of straws. What would you use alternatively for? Are we ready for that kind of...
Maybe one will just have to plan their picnic a little bit better, and you carry your cups from home, or carry bottles that you would have to carry out. But I guess it's one of those that has to be done one time or the other. People will just have to look for creative ways of ensuring that they have their picnics
I do see some companies trying to roll out metallic straws and cardboard straws and bamboo-made straws. So perhaps for those who have the entrepreneurial spirit can actually take advantage of this and actually be selling some of those to companies, catering companies, people who are trying to go out and enjoy themselves and, make a killing out of it. Now, it would be actually remiss of us if we don't mention what's happening in the United States. On page 32, the Daily Nation, I think this is covering, or rather, this is the Standard actually. Page 32 is covering the unrest that is happening after the killing of an African-American man, George Floyd. And of course, this was captured on video and circulated the world over via social media. And this has caused worldwide protests that have actually boil down to looting and, destruction of property, but just is a reflection of the kind of anger that has been sparked by that kind of racist and behavior and police brutality in the United States.
Absolutely. And of course, I'm sure all of us would have watched that video, which I still cannot bring myself to watch it again because of how gruesome.
Actually, I couldn't even finish the first time because it's just inhumane what that man was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's one of those things that, well, it has definitely got America burning, and one waits to see how this is going to be resolved, given that it's not an issue that is starting now. Racism and black men specifically being killed by police has been an issue. We've even had hashtags, Black Lives Matter, and that was, in the backdrop of the killings that have been happening in the United States. But one waits to see how that is going to go on.
And it's unfortunate that this all started out with the report of a fake $20 bill to the police and ended up in the killing of this 46-year-old man. And even the person who reported this fake dollar bill was calling their boss and complaining that it looks like the person I called the police over is being killed right outside this store. And it's quite embarrassing what's happening. The same page also gives us more what is, I would call, the ripple effects of this protest and the killing of this man, because American embassies in Africa are in damage control campaigns. And we have here quoted the U.S. ambassador to the Congo, who has gave a statement condemning and saying that this is appalling what happened to George Floyd in Minneapolis. And this is just something we naturally would expect ambassadors to go on a sort of preemptive strike to show that they are not happy or in collusion with this sort of behavior. So just another story attached to that one.
All right, and let's finish off with the Business Daily, where we have the headlines: tax collections fall by 20 billion on COVID woes. You can imagine if companies are suffering with COVID-19 and the fact that income has become completely reduced by virtue of the fact that almost shut down the economy. So the tax collector, of course, is one who is not left out. And this being the biggest money earner for government, that leaves us wondering how this is going to pan out, particularly given that we are so heavily in debt. So that's tax collections fall by 20 billion on COVID woes. And I was talking to a friend yesterday, and he was telling me how he even got a call from KRA showing you how bad things are. Literally, they're calling people to find out, hey, have you made your payment?
Absolutely,
but again, of course, they're being a bit, reluctant to harass because they know that right now we are in a new normal that nobody expected.
Yeah, and everyone is feeling the pinch. So therefore, this is nobody's fault. It's just that virus and its effect, and this is happening the world over to all governments. They're feeling the pinch of this falling tax collection amounts. So, and I remind you just to be a part of the conversation. You can answer this question: do you think the current turmoil in political parties has to do with the 2022 succession politics? Get on Twitter, tell us what you think. I'm at Trix Ingaro, he's at Michael G. Gitonga. The official hashtag is KTN Morning Express. You could also tag KTN News KE and let us know what you think. Be a part of the conversation. But for now, let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more for you right here on Morning Express.